Okay, let's begin. I don't know if you noticed, but Shavuos is on the way. And I wanted to ask you, why is Shavuos, and I don't know if it's called, I don't know if it's mentioned in the Torah, the name Shavuos. I think it's a rabbinical name. I don't think it's called Shavuos in the Torah. The rabbis called it Shavuot, very properly translated as Vikfest. Vikenfest. Vakenfest. Why is Shavuos called the Vakenfest? That's the question.
It's because it's so many weeks after Pesach.
Right.
It is connected to Pesach.
Correct. And in other words, it seems like the rabbis, they felt in the name, like they could have called it, Yom Mat. I mean, we do say Yom Matan Torah in the Nusach of the Tefillah, but when they named the name of the week, they could have said, Matan Torah Day, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's kind of like, yeah, it's the weeks leading up, but why is that important to stress that? You know what I'm saying? Why do they make an issue out of enough to call it the name, the holiday, like it's not named for itself, it's named for the weeks before it.
Yeah.
Why is that? You know, there's something, the rabbis are giving us a message here, that by calling it Shavuot, and talking about, so to speak, it's like it doesn't stand by itself. Its importance is because of the weeks before it. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit. So I wanted to explain that a little bit. So we have to talk a little bit about the connection between Pesach and Shavuos. And the Gemara talks about a rabbi named Rabbi Asi. That was his name. And he used to, like everybody else, drink the 4 cups of wine on Passover. And the Gemara describes how he used to get a hangover. Like many people get a hangover from it's a bit much, the 4 cups, especially if you drink real wine. Especially in those days, the wine was pretty stark, pretty strong. So he used to get a hangover like everybody else. But what was unique about Rav Asi, and the Gemara mentions, is that his hangover lasted from Passover all the way till Shavuot. Okay? Hangover, like when you get drunk and you have a headache. Drunk, when you drink a lot of alcohol and you get a headache afterwards, it's called a hangover. Okay? And he used to get a headache from drinking the 4 cups of wine, and the headache lasted every year the same thing. And he would drink the 4 cups of wine, and he would have a headache until Shavuot. That's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara is very mysterious because, I feel very bad for Ravasi, and he should really have gone to see a doctor. But why do we have to know that he had a headache? Because a lot of people get headaches, and why do we have to know that he had his headache, till Shavuot? What is the message of the Gemara? The Gemara has to record this, in the Talmud. Obviously, it's got a deep teaching. So my father-in-law once told me he saw in the Sefer Zikaron of Rav Tzadok that what the Gemara is trying to teach us is, on Passover we got our freedom. We were freed. But what Rav Asi is trying to say is freedom without the Torah, freedom without responsibility, freedom without just freedom. What are you going to do with your freedom? Just freedom is a headache. I just personally, I feel very, very bad. The Iranian people are very good people, the Iranian people. Okay? And I feel, it's terrible to watch, how these poor women over there are tortured and by these crazy mullahs, right? And they want their freedom, and they're taking off their burqas and everything like that. But I'm just thinking, if you compare, let's say they get their freedom, and then in in 20 years they're going to be like the social, the woke social, social justice warriors that have their hairs dyed pink and blue, and I'm saying you can be a slave to the paro, you can be a slave to the mullahs, you can be a slave to the to all the cuckoo kokomanis, and it's all terrible. It's really terrible, but it's also terrible to then become a slave. If you don't know what to do with your freedom afterwards, you're going to become a slave to your Yetzer Hara. And so our freedom is tied down. And where do we stretch let's put it in your metaphor, where do we stretch our string from Passover to Shavuos? And that's how we make our string tight, that we connect Passover to Shavuot because on Shavuot we got the Torah, right? And so therefore, we were trying to say that our freedom is meaningless without the Torah that comes afterwards. There was a famous psychiatrist called Viktor Frankl. He has a book called The Meaning to Life, very famous. He used to say, he had a whole thing about, he watched the people dying in the Shoah, and he was saying, and unless you were murdered directly, if people would just like not wake up one morning or something like that, he always noticed it was because that person had given up having a reason to live. Either his relatives had died, or the holiday had passed, whatever it was, he had nothing to look forward to. And when he had no meaning, he would die. That was his famous thing. He built a whole form of psychiatry based on this, that people have to have meaning in their life. But he used to also say, if there's no statue of, if we're going to have a Statue of Liberty on the East Coast, we have to have a statue of responsibility on the West Coast. Not a Governor Newsom, not Newsom. We have to have a statue of responsibility, not a Hollywood. We have my sister. My sister's over there. Okay, so that's good. No, well, she actually does. She lives in Beverly. And there's a very frum community in Beverly. There's a kollel over there and everything. It's a very, very, very nice community. Yeah, the contrast is unbelievable. Beverly. There's the Lakewood kollel is over there. It's a massive. The point is, if we're going to have a statue of liberty, we have to have a statue of responsibility. That was what he said. And that's the same idea over here. And that's what Ravasi is telling us, is that the freedom alone was not, and therefore we connect Passover, Mimacharat Shabbat, Tisperu Lechem, it says 7 weeks, Miyom Haviatchem et HaOmer, Tisperu Chamishim Yom, Taviu Mincha Chadasha, then you bring a new Mincha on the 50th day, which is Shavuot. Yeah?
They mix them.
They mix them, right. Completely different. Yeah, one is carefree without responsibility. The other one, and that's very dangerous. And the other one is freedom. Look, there's an expression in Chazal: "Ein ben chorna l'misha osek b'Torah." The only free person is, because by definition we are slaves. We're going to be slaves to something. By definition, you have to eat, you have to breathe. We have our limitations, right? So we are slaves no matter what, and so. The best is to understand that I'm going to latch myself onto something infinite, and I'm going to become a slave to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, who's infinite, and that's where I can really get freedom. And the only way to latch onto a Kodesh Baruch Hu is through Torah. So, Ein ben chorin elamisha osek Torah, which is Shavuos. Yeah, al tikra charut el cherut, right? That as much as the Torah is engraved in you, that's how free you are. It's a function of. The more Torah is engraved in you, the stronger is your freedom. Okay, so now let's just think about it. When Klal Yisrael were in Egypt, we have to understand they were at the lowest level of Tumah, which needs an explanation. What does it mean? So first of all, we have to understand the nature. And before I go on, I just want to show that this is actually what everything we're saying here is the 4 cups. The 4 cups that gave him a headache. The four cups are Hotzeiti, the 4 Lashonos of Geula. They correspond. Hotzeiti, Hatzalti, Ga'alti, V'lakachti. So these are the 4 languages that the Torah uses when it's telling Moshe Rabbeinu that Hashem's going to take us out, and he's right. I'm going to take you out, and I'm going to save you, and I'm going to redeem you, and I'm going to take you. So. These were actually fulfilled like this. Hotzeiti and Hatzalti was when we left Egypt. Ga'alti was when we stood at the sea and we saw our oppressors dead. Okay, when we finally went through the sea and we knew we not only were taken out, we were actually knew we were free. Because as long as you have your enemy still walking around and he can come and take you back, you don't really feel the freedom. So that was the Geula, was on the 7th day of Passover. And then Lakapti is on when HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us and gave us the Torah and took us to Him as a nation, as sons, and gave us the Torah. Okay, that we made that special relationship of banim l'Hashem. Okay, and and we were given. We went into a covenant with him. That's the other name for Shavuos, by the way, is the oath, that we took an oath. That's the other name. Yeah. And by the way, it's not just, it happens to be the same word, and they are connected with the number 7. Okay, how is that? Let me explain. The word Shvuah, right, we just said Shvuot, is a week. A week is 7, right? 7 days a week. That's an easy one. Okay? But why is an oath, right? Is it's so important that we took an oath that that we're going to keep the Torah, that they're calling the name of the holiday Shavuot. Mushba va'omer midhar Sina, right? Why is it that the word Shavuot, oath, is that connected with 7? Does that have anything to do with the number 7? Like, both week and oath, they're very similar words. Is it just a coincidence or not? So the answer is they're both connected with 7. Now, the week is connected with 7. I think you can figure that one out. Okay? Right? 7 days. And it's 7 weeks. But why is the oath, what does that have to do with 7? So I once saw in the Sfas Emes, I just fell across this. It's in the parsha of the it's talking about the Nedarim and Shavuot, everything over there. Huh? No, it's Matos, right? So he explains that the idea of a Shavuot is like a guy who's having a hard time smoking, stopping the smoke, right? So he tells himself, from now on I'm not going to smoke. In the next 5 minutes, all of a sudden there's a cigarette in his hand. He doesn't even realize how did he get there before, and he's just smoking away, and he didn't even realize it, So how does a person get control? So there's this thing called a shvuah. The tzaddikim are mashbiat yitzra. They right. So how do you so but what's the idea of an oath? Is that I'm binding all of myself to commitment. Like now, if I smoke, I'm going to have a serious violation of an oath. It's a very serious violation. And the idea of the oath is I'm saying, it's called an Isser al Nafsho. It's like I'm binding myself. An Isser is a bound, like a Beit Asuri. I'm binding myself to my promise. And the idea is I'm using all of my kochot. And the kochot, the lower powers, are the 7 sfirot that we've been counting, by the way. That's your power. The higher ones are like so high that we don't have the full access. So the powers that are at our access, like so our being that we feel attached to, are the 7 lower sfirot, and we're saying with all of my sfirot, with all of my being, with all of the kochot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to me, right? I'm dedicating myself to do this. So an oath comes also from the language of Sheva, because what it is, it's the idea of I'm using all of my power of my Seva. My 7, which is actually what we were doing over this period of time. 7 times 7 is we're building ourselves. We are building our being in these weeks beforehand. And that's what I want to talk about. You see, why did we go into exile to begin with? Okay? Why did we go into exile to begin with? Exile. Why did we go into the galut, the exile, to begin with? What's the concept of exile? And why did the rabbis say that if we had fallen to the 49th level of Tumah, we could not have been redeemed? What is that supposed to mean? What, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't redeem us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do anything he wants, right? The point is, the whole purpose of it's like taking a seed. And by the way, we say it in the davening, we say, Et semach David tatzmiach. We compare redemption from exile as growing. The whole idea of exile is to take a seed. It's like taking a seed, putting it in the ground, and putting it in the ground will break open the seed. Okay? It will demolish the seed, just like the exile will demolish us, so to speak, break us open, right? And then the genetic information that's in the seed now has the ability to expand itself and break out and become something bigger than it was if it had just stayed a seed. That's the idea of exile. Okay? That's Elu Shmos B'nai Yisrael Aboim Mitzrayim. That's the idea, that they came with their names, but they didn't lose their names. They didn't lose their identity. If the Jewish people would lose their identity in Mitzrayim and sink to the 49th level of Tumah, that's like losing the genetic information. So then that's like the seed rotting in the ground, and it's meaningless. The exile is meaningless. And of course, the Kodesh Baruch Hu could take us out, but it had nothing to do with what we were before. It's like a Bria Chadasha. There's no point to it. The whole point of the exile is to develop what's there, not to create something new. So there's like a fine balance between the exile breaking out and breaking us to the point where we can develop our potential, or breaking us so much that we lose our entire being. So when it started getting to the stage where we're losing our identity, right, then the Kodesh Baruch Hu said we can't keep them there anymore. So we actually, in his thermometer, okay, in Hashem's thermometer, which was called the 49th level of Tumah, Kodesh Baruch Hu had a special thermometer, okay, and we had reached, and we couldn't stay there another moment. That's why we had to be taken out so fast. That's the idea of v'lo speak but sekam lahachmitz. He didn't let us become chametz. He didn't let the Yetzer Hara take over and ruin it. So we couldn't stay another moment. One more moment, we were lost. That's how close we were.
But it's only 20%.
Yeah, and only 20% and 80% were lost. Okay, so anyway, the point is, when we left, it was a physical freedom, but we were still had the influence of Mitzrayim in us. You know, we had to purify ourselves over the next 49 days to prepare ourselves for Matan Torah. And by the way, I mean, it was also like we didn't have the right, we were being taken out too early, and we didn't have enough schus to be taken out. Right, we're supposed to be there for 400 years. We were taken out early. And that was what Moshe Rabbeinu was arguing really about with Hashem. It's not that he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go because he knew we would be taking out prematurely. And he knew if we're taking out prematurely, we're going to make a lot of troubles in the desert. And it's going to cause a lot of problems. And we're going to go back into exile because of that. And he knew all that. Okay? And he understood that. And he was right, actually. But of course, what it says, they can't stay anymore. It's not possible. So it's better that they survive and go back into exile years later. But, right? It's the best of the two evils. But part of it was that we didn't have enough schuyot to come out, because, and Kodesh Baruch Hu said, it's beschus that they're going to accept the Torah. Sometimes the Kodesh Baruch Hu looks in the future what a person's going to do, and he can use that as a schus. And he used the fact that the Jewish people were going to accept the Torah as a reason that he could take us out now. And so definitely we have to connect the two. We can't leave without, counting down to Matan Torah. Okay, to having that count to Matan Torah, because they're really linked. They're very much linked. And like we said, our freedom is not complete until we have the Matan Torah. That is the completion. That's the fourth cup, the lakachti. Okay? So our completion is really not complete. And now, the Gaon Vilna says that if you, this was before there was AI, and this was before there was Bar Ilan discs and all this. But the Gaon Vilna had one of his own up there. He was better than AI, right? And he could just calculate how many times does it say in the Torah the words Yetziat Mitzrayim?
49 times?
No, 50 times. 50 times.
Wow. Okay?
So 50 times, if you check the words throughout the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, it will say Yetziat Mitzrayim, right? Ani Hashem Asher Hotzeti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, right? In the different forms, though. That's why it's very hard to do with a disc, because sometimes it says it a little bit different. So, if you count, it's 50 times, and that's hinted to in the Torah, because it says that Klal Yisrael went out chamushim, right? It says V'yishlach Paro B'nei Yisrael Yatsu chamushim. Alu chamushim, whatever, they went out chamushim. Chamushim, Rashi says, fortified with their weapons, right? But we can think it very simply. They went out chamishim. So one opinion is that 1/5 went out, right? Like the word chamesh. But it also is chamushim. Literally, they went out 50 times. Because every day right, between Metzius Mitzrayim. They went out physically on the first day. The next day they went out, they had a level of tumah they had to get rid of, and then they had to put another level of holiness. So every day is another Yetziah. Every day is another Yetziah. Yeah? Okay, so it's like very interesting because the Klal Yisrael are not just one time they went out every day is another, so to speak, leaving of Egypt on another level, right? Changing a level of Tumah for a level of Kedusha until we reach the highest level, and then we merged with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, when we stood there, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, then we became so merged with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we actually died, right? The Kodesh Baruch Hu spoke, blew out our neshamas, and with every word, Yatzah bidvaro, with every word we were like, our neshamas were blown out until we said, this is a very, it's wonderful to hear God speak, but like, okay, we get the message, we get the point. We heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, we heard Moshe Rabbeinu, you take over from now. We believe that, we saw what it is. We know what it is when the Kodesh Baruch Hu speaks, but like, but at that moment, like, we merged with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, we became one with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So like we reached the level, okay? That was Matan Torah. So, now the question is like this. The Sefer Chinuch says that the reason that we count is because we're counting in anticipation of receiving the Torah. Like it's like, we can't wait. We have gaguin for the Torah. It's like, waiting till the vacation comes, waiting till the kids going to the lunar park. We're waiting for that day. And we can't wait. So we're counting the days until this can happen. So now the famous question is, according to the Chinuch, we're counting towards Matan Torah. Why are we counting up? In the Omer we count, today is like 46, right? Why are we counting up? We should be counting down. Because we're counting in anticipation. When you count, you say there's only 5 more days till vacation. There's only 4 days till vacation. 3 days till vacation. 1 more day and we're going. Yeah. So when you anticipate something, right? So I'm going to do this very quickly, but Rav Shimshon Pinkus has a mimer all about this, and he brings from the writings of Rav Aaron Kotler to explain this, where it says that Yaakov Avinu, he worked for Rachel for 7 years, and it was like in his eyes, like a few days. So listen, if you love a woman and you want to marry her, and you can't wait to marry her, so is 7 days is going to feel like 7 years. Not 7 years are going to feel like 7 days. He's going to say, when am I going to get in the chuppah? When is it going to happen? So why does the Torah say that his wait of 7 years was like 7 days? Doesn't make sense. This is the question of Rav Aaron Kotler. So Rav Aaron Kotler says like this. He explains a very, very interesting thing. He says that when Yaakov was marrying Rachel, it wasn't just another woman, okay? It was going to be the mother of Klal Yisrael, and he was going to be the father of Klal Yisrael, and they were going to bring into the world the 12 tribes. Like he knew this. He had a tradition that his sons are going to be the 12 tribes, okay? And that needs preparation. You can't just, you can't just marry a Jewish woman. A Jewish woman needs preparation, okay? Every man needs to go to a few chassan classes before he marries a Jewish woman, okay? And especially a woman like Rachel. So he needed those 7 days. So that's why, the point is like this. This is what I always ask my students. If you're in a lecture, is the time going fast or the time going slow? So if it's a boring lecture, the time goes
slow.
Very slow. Very slow. If it's a very boring lecture, it goes very slow. Now, if it's a very interesting lecture, does the time go slower or does the time go fast? And if it's a very interesting lecture, like this lecture, obviously, do you know what time it is? It's already 8:45. It's going super. It's like hyper speed. It's like Mach. We're going faster than Dutch people daven Shmona Esrei. That's how fast we're going. Okay, so why is that? It's the same 60 minutes. It's the same clock. The answer is because you're either using the time or not using the time. Like if you're using the time, then the time goes fast. if the time is not being used and the time is blocking your goal, and your goal is to get out, your goal is you're not interested in what you're hearing, and you want to go somewhere, and you want to get out of there, and the time is just in the way, it's like a wall. So the time goes very slow. So that's the point. Yaakov was using every moment of those 7 years to prepare himself, to build himself. And so the time went very fast. So the same thing over here. This is not empty time in between Pesach and Shavuos. This is a time when we're building our clay midah. Midah, the word midah, character, is numerical value 49. Midah is 49. Mem, Dalet, Hey. It's 49. The 49 days we are building our midot, we are building our midah, our clay midah, so we can receive the light of the Torah. And so, it's not empty time. And so when we're counting, what we're saying is like this, because the more we prepare, the more we have a vessel to receive the light of the Torah, the better Matan Torah we have, the better Kabbalah Torah we have. In order to receive the Torah, you have to have a place to put it. You have to have the character and the midas. That's why there's a minhag in these days to actually. There's 48 ways that the Torah is acquired. There's a minhag that every day of the Sfiras Omer to study one of those characteristics, and on the 49th day to review all of them. That's a minhag that the Talmidim of Rishon Salanter used to do. And so this is a minhag to work on your midas, and that's also the sfirot. We're building our clay midah, right? Every combination of the sfiros represents a different characteristic. So we're building ourselves, and so when we count. I have 1 day of preparation. I have 2 days of preparation, because we want to stress how many days of preparation we have, because the more of a preparation we have, the greater the... It's true we're anticipating, but we can't just anticipate. It's not a passive anticipation. We have to do something to get it. And the more we do, then that shows the anticipation, the true anticipation. Don't just sit there. Don't you want a big Kabbalah Torah? So do something about it. So we use the days, right? We use the days. Now, I saw something in it. There's something called there's a Torah paper called the Shivuli Pinchas by Pinchas Friedman is his name, and it's a very you can get it in English. You can download it, and I think Rav Gladstein is very into Shivuli. He knows the man personally, and it's written in different languages, but it's like in English. You can get it in Hebrew, a Hebrew version, an English version, maybe even a French version. I don't know. Je ne sais pas. I don't know. Yeah. I'm married to a French mama. I had to hear what my in-laws were speaking about me. So now, the point is, in this thing, he says an amazing thing. He says a very, very amazing thing. He says, if you, the pasuk that we mentioned, Usfartim lechem macharat Shabbat. Macharat Shabbat means Pesach. You start counting the Omer. Miyom aviatchem et ha'omer. Miyom aviatchem et ha'omer. Tisperu lechem 50 yom. And you bring a mincha chadasha. That's the verse. If you count the letters from Usfartem, starting with the Vav, Usfartem lechem. This is the Chassam Sofer. He brings from the Chassam Sofer. He brings the Chassam Sofer like this. He says, the man, which was an Omer legogolet, it was an Omer per head. And it happened to be also that the Korban Omer was also an Omer. An Omer is a measurement, like a kilo. If you count from the beginning of the verse, Usfartim lechem, Mimacharat HaShabbat, Miyom aviatchem et ha'omer, Sheva Shvot Mimot, Tispor lechem 50 yom. I don't remember the verse exactly, but if you count from the beginning of the verse till the word Omer, including the word Omer, the 3 letters of the word Omer, it's 33 letters. Now what's significant about that is that's a hint to Lag BaOmer, Lamed Gimel Omer. The word Lamed, with the word Omer is completed the word Lag, Lamed Gimel Otiot. And apparently the man, which was an Omer, fell down from heaven on Lag BaOmer. That's when the man started falling, on Lag BaOmer. Did you know that? No. which that's the Chassam Sofer claims. The Chassam Sofer claims that the man started falling because they had enough matzahs for a month. They took out, right? We took out, right? But it only was enough for a month. So that's like the month is over, and so it's 33 days. And on the 33rd day, the month started falling. Okay? And that's very fascinating, by the way, that the month fell on Lag BaOmer, because what was Shimon Bar Yochai's shita? The opinion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there's a famous argument about Torah and Derech Eretz. Do you learn Torah with Derech Eretz, or do you just totally learn Torah and rely on a Kodesh Baruch who's going to take care of your financial needs, your parnasa? So Shimon Bar Yochai's shita was, if we have to go in Vasafta de Ganecha, we have to go gather the grain from the field. That's not called doing the Ratzon of Kodesh Baruch Hu, because then what's going to be with the Torah? You have to sit and learn all day. Shimon Bar Yochai sat in a cave for 7 years. He lived up to the reputation. Much more. He was in there for 12 years. 12 years. And by the way, the whole story with Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave is on page 33 in Masechet Shabbat. Did you know that? Which is fascinating, because there used to not be fixed page numbers. It was only with the printing press, and the people making the printing press were non-Jews that didn't even know what was written there. So it happened to be that the page that the story of Shimon Bar Yochai in Masechet Shabbat falls on page 33. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, so on Lag BaOmer, which is the day we celebrate Shimon Bar Yochai, right? That happened to be the day the month fell, and that's Shimon Bar Yochai's shita, that you should sit and learn all day, and parnasa will fall for like the month from Shemayim. It's almost like being like living off the month. Like it says, Lo nidna Torah ela ochlei aman. You can only learn Torah if you have someone. You can't if you're sitting where they'll get parnasa supernaturally, right? And it says many people tried like Shimon Bar Yochai and they didn't. We don't paskin like Shimon Bar Yochai. We paskin like Rabbi Yishmael. However, I say that the Torah. Well, it's not me. I also saw this in some sofer. He says that the Torah, in a certain sense, said, okay, 6 years you do like Rabbi Yishmael, but on the 7th year I want you to be like Shimon Bar Yochai. I want you to keep Shemitah. That's also like being Ochlei Aman. Like, what are you going to eat? You're not going to work your field for a whole year? That's Mamash asking Klal Yisrael, in a condition of going into the land of Israel, is that, okay, 6 years you do like Rabbi Yishmael, but on the 7th year you have to be like Shimon Bar Yochai. That's the Indian of Shemitah. It's Har Sinai, by the way. That Lo Nitna Torah La'Ochlei Aman. Shemitah is Ochlei Aman. Okay, but anyway, so isn't that interesting that the month fell down on Lag BaOmer of all days? And it's hinted to in the pasuk because there's 33 letters till the word Omer, and the man was an Omer, even though it's falling on this word Omer, talking about Korban Omer, but there's a hint. Now, what's really interesting is if you break open the days, if you break the days of the 49 days into two sections, right? Till Lag BaOmer and then after Lag BaOmer. So you have 32 days before, and then how many days do you have left? This is high mathematics. If you subtract 32 from 49, you have 17 days left. The remaining days, 17. What's the numerical value of 17? Tov. So what does it spell? If you break 49 into two words, 32 is Lev. Tov. Lev Tov.
Did you say 17? You say
17, right? From Lag BaOmer till Shavuot is 17 days, right? The 49 days. 49 is 32 plus 17. So on Lag BaOmer begins the 17 days. That's when Lag BaOmer begins. Now, it's really, really interesting. So he says like this in the Shvili Pinchas. He said all this in the Shvili Pinchas. This Shvili, like the paths of Pinchas. The paths of Pinchas. Pinchas is Pinchas.
Which Pinchas is it?
Pinchas Friedman, the author of these Torah papers.
What kind of Torah?
No, he's from now. He's alive. I think he lives in Bnei Brak. We're all, real serious rabbis live in Bnei Brak. So the point is, what he says is if you break it up, he says, in a certain way, it's like saying there's two counts here. Because it says, Miyom Shabbat, Macharat Shabbat, Tispor Lecha, right? Shivat Shvuot. And then he says, like a second time, Umiyom Haviatchem et Omer. It's like two counts, like Miyom Macharat Shabbat, Umiyom Haviatchem et Omer, which is the same day, but it's almost like it's saying like there's two counts. And if we say that the Omer is a hint to the man, it's like saying, count 32 days and then count 17 days. Like, let's break it up into two. What's the importance of this? So he wants to say like this. He wants to say the 17 days is referring to the hidden Torah. Like there's two parts of Torah. There's the revealed Torah and there's like the Zohar and the hidden Torah, which begins the 17 days is Tov. Right? We said it's Tov. Now, it says that in the beginning of creation, that God saw the light, V'yar Elokim et or, Ki Tov, and he saw it was good. And this light was not the light of the sun, this was the light of the hidden knowledge, the Ora Ganuz. And God said, I can't leave this good light for any Russia to use. They'll destroy the world with it, right? They're already doing a very good job of destroying the world without it. So imagine if they would have the light. Then they would really destroy the world. So I have to hide it. You know where God hid the light? I hope you know. In the Torah. He hid it in the Torah. So it's only the tzaddikim that can access it from the Torah, but you have to see it. You can't, by the Zohar, by the Bavli it says, come and listen. By the Zohar it says, come and see. You have to perceive it yourself. Yeah? If you don't, there are many things people, they don't get it. They don't see it. It's there, but they don't see it. It's like, they just don't get it. They don't see it. You have to perceive. But anyway, this light is called Tov. The hidden Torah is called Tov. The Zohar is also light. It's light, the shining, right? It's the hidden light. So you have to perceive this light, okay? And this light is called Tov. So that's when we're counting from Lag Bomer, starting Lag Bomer, which was Shemar Chai's day. That's when we begin the preparation for the Tov, the 17 days, for the hidden light, for the hidden Torah. That starts on Lag Bomer. It's very fascinating. We're celebrating, Shemar Chai, who revealed all the secrets of the Torah into the world on Lag Bomer itself. That begins the revelation of the hidden light. But that's the 17. Okay. Then we have the Tov, the Lev. So that's the preparation for the revealed Torah. We need to prepare for that too. And that's Lev. And where do we see that in the Torah? Well, what's the last letter of the Torah? A Lamed. Leinei Yisrael, to the eyes of Israel. He gave the Torah Leinei Yisrael. So the last letter of the Torah is Lamed. What's the first letter of the Torah? A base. So it's Lamed base is Lev. So that's a reference to the Chamesh Chumshei Torah of the revealed Torah. And so we have Lev Tov. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died in this period of time? Absolutely not. Because they were Pogem Belev Tov. Right? Because they, even though they looked amazing, and they were amazing, and they were great Talmidim, but God looked in their hearts and they saw it, and instead of loving each other and helping each other. And of course, it was their teacher that said, "V'ahavta kamocha," so they were held on a very high level. But at some level, there wasn't like they were trying to build each other. They were trying to compete and destroy each other. So on their level, to the level of being, like we're saying, these days are the preparation for Lev Tov, and they were supposed to be the ones receiving the Torah tradition and passing it on to the generations. If they didn't have a Lev Tov, right, then they can't be the transmitters of this thing. So it was a terrible destruction. It was a terrible, but it's not by accident they died in these days, because this is the period where we have to build our Lev Tov. Rahmana Libabohi. What I want to say is that the rabbis are stressing the name because our ability to be makabel the Torah, which is the day of Kabbalah Torah, depends on the preparation. That's why they called it Shavuos, because the Shavuos reflects the importance of our using the days beforehand to be able to build our Lev Tov, so to speak, so that we can receive the Torah. Okay?
refers to the
The Tov is the hidden light, because Hashem said, V'yar Elohim et ha'or ki Tov. Whatever, I don't know. It breaks it up here into Lev Tov, and the Lev is representing the revealed Torah, and the Tov is a hint to the hidden Torah. And we have to prepare for both. Yeah. Okay, we could go on, but I think it's good. It's a complete idea. Yeah.